A much anticipated event by myself especially. I'm thanking you all for being here on a school night. You'll survive, I promise. Given what I did during my school days, you'll survive. Wow, it is such an honor for me to moderate this discussion. For those of you who don't know, I am Samela Kjelboy. I used to work just here at the SABC as an actress. My most recent gig being Ayanda Majola on Generations, but never mind all that. We are here this Women's Month to talk to three esteemed and very accomplished female authors in South Africa. As you can see them on the project. Never mind this person. I'm talking about those three over there. I'd like to introduce them. If we can have Angela Makholwa. Now, Angela, of course, wrote Red Ink. She wrote Black Widow Society, The 30th Candle, and also... Yeah. Critical but Stable. It's actually airing right now on Mzansi Magic every Sunday evening on Mzansi Magic at 8 o'clock. Oh, you know your stuff. That's nice. That's nice. Yeah. Okay, now when I read two of Angela's earlier works, this is Red Ink and Black Widow Society. Angela, I was worried about you. I was worried about you. And this is one of the first Black women authors who published in the crime and suspense thriller genres. So congratulations. I'd like to also introduce you to Ms. Nozizwe Cynthia Jele. We're going to talk about that quote, but I really would like to talk about happiness is a 4-letter word. A little FYI for those of you who didn't know, on its release weekend, this is back in 2016, on the 19th of February, happiness is a 4-letter word, outdid all other cinematic releases here in South Africa. And it was ranked in the top 3 amongst about Deadpool. That is something. That is something. And the CEO of Ster-Keniko, Mr. Mario Dos Santos, went on to say that, you know, these overwhelming numbers, they say a lot about the quality of our local productions, not just from the local perspective, but also as far as the global landscape is concerned. Congratulations. Now, look, you might have heard about this little book. It's called, I don't know, maybe you know it. It's called The Polygamist. AKA, Yo, Jonas. Ladies and gentlemen, the author, Ms. Sunyati. Guys, The Polygamist, the series, upon opening, ranked 2nd globally. By the end of the 2nd week, it was number 1 in 63 countries and counting. And, my goodness, this is staggering. You were like in the top 10, number 1 in about 16 countries worldwide. Wow, congratulations, Sunyati. These are our panelists for the evening. Let's give them a round of applause, please. All right, we're just going to give a moment for our guests to settle in. We have some media that's going to play. Maybe it's a good time to do that while we're waiting for everybody to settle in. Shall we?
Friendship. If only love was what it was in the movies, huh?
You mean fake?
I mean, everybody wants happy endings.
I'm flying out now.
You just got here and you're leaving again.
Call you when I land.
10 minutes and you have to go. I'm a partner.
Welcome to the big boys.
You're sweating in the pubs.
Please, I'm not thirsty.
Thank you for the flowers.
What flowers?
This is a milestone deal for Southern Africa.
I can't take this case. Chris and I have history.
He specifically requested you.
Well, to me, it's already sounding like something it shouldn't be.
This is how this is gonna work, okay? You are a client. Just saying, it wouldn't hurt to go the extra mile to impress the partner.
As a married woman, if you're gonna cheat, you're gonna cheat with someone who's married. Then it's not cheating.
It's about the lies! Lies all this time!
Guys, why all this drama around these men? I thought they were just meant to be like a light distraction.
Come on, come on, come on!
Your friends are crazy.
Kaya? Hey, my baby.
Isikhathi sami zokwenza izindaba siphelele.
Kodwa nje ngitshela imfihlo phakathi kwami mina nawe. La kwa-journalism ngiyabhora ungekho.
Yebo, Sawubona.
Usikhambule.
Uthe sidinga ukukhuluma. Napoleon the Butcher. Akakaze avume ukukhuluma nama-journalists. Ngicabanga ukuyombona. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity.
Ufikile usekhambule. Ngifuna wena ubhale nje incwajana ngami.
I owe everything that I am today to my wonderful wife. Nomndeni wami omuhle. Happy anniversary, Joyce. Isithembu, isiko lala ekhaya. Siwabiza amahlaza ethu emphakathini asiyenzi leyo.
Somsebenzi wami na uhlala bemesi yakho.
Yona ndlela le umtshisa ukuthi usuyindoda manje.
Silimaza sonke le nto ma. It's not just you.
Yeah, sure. Give me tea. Umhlasi. Sohlweni ini.
Are you recording? 2 decades later, you still have this effect on each other? What's your secret?
Sonke lesikhathi ngitshela mina nawe ukuthi si-right, ukuthi si-happy. Mina ngakusiza wayakha yonke lento nayo 20 years.
Awulawuleki wena.
Angithokozi. Nobekezelela izinto zonke. Njengoba nisazi isisho sithe ungapheli kahlolo.
And we're back. Now, ladies, these 3 books, Happiness is a 4-Letter Word, Red Ink, and The Polygamist, these were your debut novels. And they went on to be film and TV series adaptations. This is incredible. I think it's safe to say that you basically changed the landscape of TV and film here in South Africa, and I dare say worldwide. So personally for me, as an actress, I thank you. I do note, though, that I was not in any of those productions. We're going to have to talk about that. But I mean, it's fine. It's fine. I'm fine. I'm totally fine. The actors who were cast delivered a stellar performance, wouldn't you agree? Which brings me to my first question. Can you tell us how it went from being a book to a screen adaptation? Can each of you share with us how that happened?
Hi, thank you, Samela. So my process was interesting. So the first adaptation of one of my books was with The 30th Candle. It was a film, and I remember watching it, and as happens, I suppose, with a lot of writers whose books become adapted, there's certain things that you're not really happy with, and it's the nature of the beast. So it's not an attack on the production. But one of the things that I wanted to do is to have some kind of ownership. And I think it was crazy because it's not really how things are done. But I went and actually pitched Red Ink and Critical But Stable, which is airing on Mzansi Magic at the moment. I pitched it to MultiChoice and just long shots. And they were accommodating enough to allow me to be one of the executive producers of the show and the co-creators of the show. So it was an incredibly empowering experience and a unique experience. And I'm happy with actually how the adaptation went. So yeah, so the gamble kind of paid off. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for coming. Samila, just to answer your question. So I think I'm at the stage where Angela started, where your book is adapted, and you're not involved in the production. You don't have creative control. So I think that's where most of us start as writers. But I have to say, kudos to the producers. I think they did a fantastic job. I think the series complements the book. And so for me, I think the story was different in the sense that from the time the book came out as early as 2013, there was interest to do an adaptation. It was first Untati Moshesh, I'm sure you know her. Yeah, she approached me way back in 2013. And we even formed a production company together with Ukolile Chabalala. We were thinking of doing all this woman production and doing the adaptation, but we got discouraged along the way and then sort of gave up on it. And then later in 2014, Uholi Nigiwe, who's actually one of the directors in the series, approached me, and he was also keen to do an adaptation. So that was a sort of second iteration of it. And he only really started seriously looking at it in 2016. And I think he then taught me how to screenwrite in between, because he was like, I want you to, let's work together and do the screenplay. And that's how I sort of got into screenwriting. And I earned my first screenwriting credit on Matatiele, yes, on ETV. So that's how I got into the whole screenwriting side of things. But once again, it didn't work out. And his production company, Branded Soul Productions, kind of left it. And then in 2022, I was approached for the third time, this time by Stained Glass. And they'd done The Wife, I think. And so I kind of thought, okay, they've done something, they might be able to do something with the polygamous. So it was the third attempt. And yeah, and the third attempt led us here. So that's really how we ended up at this junction, yeah.
Okay, hi everyone. So for me, it was maybe a combination of the two. So Happiness is an old movie. It actually turned 10 this year, and it was so before, because it was one of the first books to be adapted into a film. And the way it happened is Ubongiwe Selane, who's a producer, had used to work for MultiChoice at the time. And I think in that way, like MultiChoice coming through for those early adaptation is something that we need to commend, because Happiness also, they were involved in that adaptation. So she used to work for MultiChoice, and she decided that MultiChoice used to have a prize, a book prize. And I wish one of those streamers could bring it back because it will help them to find, to source new material as well. So I used to have a prize for writing, and they will pick different categories. And Happiness that year, I think it was 2011, won for the book that could be adapted into a film. And one of the judges happened to be a producer who then picked it up and just really ran with it. So basically what happens is you get a call from your publisher if you are published, if you have a publisher or if you have someone who's representing you, and they will tell you that somebody is interested in doing your work or in adapting your work. And then there's usually you'll sign an option, and after that you will sign the film rights if they are able then to get the money to get the movie to be made. I was lucky to be involved because when Happiness was done, and this is also important in terms of the National Film and Video Foundation, the role that they play, because they paid for the development of the script for Happiness is a Four-Letter Word, which means the producer could hire a writer, Ubusisiwe Ntintili, and ask to be able to sit in a workshop and be able to look at the book and decide what is going to be adapted and what is going to be left out. So I was involved in the early development of the film. I acted as a script editor, which means each time there was an iteration of the script, I was also involved and was able to give input to it. So my role was slightly different in that in that first adaptation. Yes, I was involved, even though I was not involved in the day-to-day production. But just like, and yeah, we had to change writers because, sometimes you get a writer and the writer their interpretation is very different to what you had. So we had to change a writer early on in the story. And then we brought on another writer, Ubusisiwe, to complete the script. It's not a linear process.
No, it really isn't. You've mentioned something about not being involved so much in the writing process, which is insane for me because these are your children, so to speak. You created them, you created this world. And yes, maybe you're not a screenwriter, although you did say, Sue, that you have experienced screenwriting on Madadiel and also Bone of My Bones, right?
Yes. I've done a few.
Yes.
And I used to storyline on Generations before I got fired. Yeah. So I think it was before your time.
Before my time.
Yeah.
See, that's karma for not getting me on The Polygamist. Yeah. Sorry. No. Okay, but now, even as far as something like casting is concerned, seeing as you birthed these characters, surely one would expect that you have some say in terms of, yes, this is the character. This one embodies this character that I've written for this particular story. How far was your involvement even where casting was concerned, if not with the script writing?
So with the first film that I was unhappy with, I was not involved in casting, in writing, in anything. And I remember actually sitting at a screening like this and watching this film for the first time. And I remember feeling like I'd been punched in the gut because it just didn't feel like what I expected it to look like, to feel like. The story felt heavily compromised. And I think that is a very painful feeling. But like I said, having spoken to a lot of writers locally and even overseas, it's not really how it's done. Is it right that that's not how it's done? I think that's open, to debate. And so with the latest productions, Red Ink and Critical but Stable, it's been completely different, and it's been very enriching to have a voice in choosing the writers that are going to be in the room. In the writing room, in choosing the director of Critical but Stable was actually in the room with us, the Menga. So you feel I felt very empowered being part of the creative process, being part of the pre-production, the auditions, and even wardrobe. Something as simple as wardrobe can bring tears to your eyes because you have such a great sense of what a character, when you're creating a character, when you're writing a character, you have a great sense of who this person is in every single sense of what makes a person, because all our characters are multidimensional. They're not just a thematic thread in a book. They are living beings. That's how they feel to us as writers. And so even when when an actress walks into an audition or an actor walks into an audition, you do have a great sense of, okay, that is Duke or that is not Duke because you wrote the character. So I do feel that this fear of having authors involved in the process is something that needs to be debated and really scrutinized and interrogated. Is it the right call? I know that writers and authors are seen to be hypersensitive, with probably good reason, because, we wrote these characters, we wrote these stories. But I also always try and warn writers who want to be part of the creative process of moving from book to screen to do a bit of soul searching, because it isn't a pretty process. It's fun in games. A lot of it is, of course, it's fun in games. But the business of TV doesn't really give room to your artistic sensibilities as an author. And the fact that the business of television, meaning these are people who have a good sense of what their audience is looking for. They have a great sense, or they believe, of course, they have to believe that they know their audience better than you do. And so if they decide to compromise maybe even a whole storyline or an entire character, sitting in that room and listening to those decisions being made, it can bring real, actual tears to your eyes. So it's about, do you have the thick skin to sit through those discussions? Will you be able to even come back the next day? And we know, there's a recent, she's laughing already. We know that there's a recent trending topic about the author of Children of Blood and Bone, who has kind of eviscerated the film before it went to screen because of how she feels she was done by during that kind of creative process. So I don't think it's for everyone. And I think you need to know yourself. You need to know how much you can take, because it can be a bloodbath in there, like in terms of that translation from book to screen. I can make a simple example of Critical but Stable. We even had to change the entire world of story. So you can imagine something like world of story is quintessential to the spine of whatever it is that you're writing. But again, a business decision was made because the channel at the time felt that something similar had already aired and it had already been commissioned. And so as much as they had, when I pitched it to channel, I think about 2 years before, I pitched it to the senior people at channel and they had bought into the vision of it. But then the junior people, once they read the book, they said, no, we've seen this production already, so we cannot have it as it is. And so again, going into the room and sitting around that boardroom table and hearing that your whole story essentially has changed is not nice. But you make those calls. So if it's going to change, am I happy? Am I comfortable with releasing it? Because obviously they've paid for the thing, they've paid for the adaptation. So whether you're gonna be part of it or not, the show will go on. So it's making that call of, will it be easier for me to live with the book being reimagined by another creator, another show creator, or will I take the bullet and reimagine it myself? So that's the kind of tough call that sometimes you're forced to make. So that's why I'm saying it's not for the faint of heart. But to be fair, after having gone through the process, as much as it differs from a lot from the book, I am proud that I was part of the process of reimagining it. I feel like the pain of not having the actual iteration of the book as it is easier to bear, having been part of the process of reimagining it. Sorry, that's a long answer to a very short question.
Sure. So it's with the casting. So I was not involved in the casting, and the characters in the polygamists look nothing like the characters in the book. So, for instance, with Jonasi in the book, is tall, dark, and chocolate brown, and Jonas in the series is light and shorter, you know. But no, but I'm just, they're very different,
If
right?
you're light and short.
Look, I'm short. It's nothing. I'm a short person, so it's got nothing to do with being short. But what I'm saying is they're very different. But still, Ustumom Chali actually brought that character to life. Well, so for me, so sometimes it's not really about maintaining the aesthetics. It's also the talent that the character brings. Similarly, the Joyce in the book doesn't look like Ukukumete, but she really portrayed that character very well. And so there were also other changes, like for instance, the character of Joyce. Joyce in the book is passive aggressive, whereas in the series she becomes very aggressive, manipulating and cunning, which is very different in terms of storyline and how she's portrayed. And once again, like you're saying, those are probably decisions they made in terms of to dramatize it more, you know, and as a series as opposed to, you know, in the book, right? And then you have changes. For instance, the character Lindani in the book was not a friend of the daughter, but they made that choice to kind of give Jonasi a more predatory nature, to highlight that more. So they were so for me the changes didn't take away from the story; they enhanced the story. So they worked. But yeah, they definitely were changes. And I mean, Lindani in the book doesn't look like Lindani in the series. So it also goes back to, like, do they really have to though? You know, and I think it's also the decisions that are made by the casting, you know, director. And for me, I think they did a great job. Maybe if it hadn't worked, I might be mad, but it did work, you know, and it turned out well. So, you know, it's a different story in that regard. So, and I think there were a lot of things that I felt they respected, like the details. So, for instance, Matipa, the red dress, she turns up at the anniversary in a red dress. This is in the book. And they took it up in the series, and, you know, it became a defining thing in the way she dressed and how Joyce was always in white. So they did really pay attention to detail. I mean, there were little things that only I could know. Like, for instance, when Shumi blows the candle, when the dad is about to die. So what they didn't have was his birthday, but they tried to include it at the end. So there's little details, I as the author, that were very personal to me, that they did try to include as well. So I think they did try. There were those little things that only I could know because I created the story. So I think, you know, for me, the way I see it, like, if you really want to tell your story the way you want to tell it, then you would have to, like, take on the role that Angela has now done. You'd have to executive produce, and, you know, so that you can actually call all those shots. Because until you do that, you are going to have those differences, which we've seen with Tommy, where there's that back and forth now, and she's distanced herself from the film, even though she was involved in the screenplay. So it you know, at the end of the day, whoever funds calls the shots, and I think that's where we are.
Speaking of calling the shots, I'm sorry, Cynthia, before you answer, happiness is a 4-letter word. You did not write sequels to that. But the film, I don't know how many of you know, but the film has sequels. There's Happiness Ever After and Happiness Is. So as far as that, how much of a say did you have in that?
Not much, actually. And I think it's because it changed who the handler is. So the first film was independently, to a great part, was independently produced, right? So the producers had to go and look for funding, and then be able to pay back the funders. With the second one and the third one, it's a Netflix series, films. They are Netflix films, so they get involved. And so I wasn't involved. I was involved initially with the storylining of the second one, but there were some production difficulties. For example, the thing is with unlike a book, your character, you decide when you want to kill your character or when you want to take off your character from the book. But with adaptations, and because you're dealing with real people, right? So sometimes people are not able to return to a production. Sometimes they go and do other things, and so you then, and which is what happened to Happiness 2, the second film. Not everybody was able, not the cast, the first cast, not everybody was able to come back. So they had to make some changes to the story. So the story that I had initially outlined couldn't work because it was based on the original cast continuing. But they then had to, it almost just like they had to create a completely new storylines, bring in new characters, and that is the reality of it, right? Because you're dealing with something that is real, that is live. It can change. It can change without you as a producer or whoever is backing intending for it to. But that's just life, and you have to be able to be agile enough to be able to then decide, do you continue? Because I think the biggest question they had was, do they bring in a different, maybe you would have come back as another character.
We'll never know.
Or do they bring in a different character who's going to play one of the characters from the first film, or do they introduce now a completely new character, which is what they did with the second one, and also with the third one, they also had to introduce another character, which actually is in the book, but was not part of the first film. So these things, they do change, and I think filmmakers just always have to be adaptive and very flexible around the story. And Angela was just talking about it, just like how you have to pivot the whole thing and give it a new look and feel, but still in a way. You can still watch Critical But Stable and know that it is Critical But Stable. You can still watch Happiness and still relate to the original film. I think that's creativity in a way.
Now I have to ask, had you perhaps considered writing a sequel, and did this now maybe put a dead stop to that, or are there options in how you can approach that if you still consider doing it?
Here's the thing, though. This is what I learned. The most important thing in this is the world that you create and the characters, right? What happens, can happen. So I think now, if I were to write something that has to do with happiness, because there is just so much that has, it's just so much that belongs into that brand. It will probably work. They'll probably want it because the world is there. The world has continued, and the characters, people still love the characters in those films. So, but I never thought. For me, it was always going to be one book. I was writing it being at a particular point in time, and it was always going to be one book. And I then moved on to other things, to much deeper themes, to much deeper books than happiness. So I never thought I would do it, but I did. When I was asked to do, even though there was even some talks of looking at a prequel, so before they made it, who they were, but it was never a book I was ever going to return to.
Wow, if you do, I'm here.
Naturally.
Now, Sue and Angela, with your experience as a scriptwriter and executive producer, I know there's been a surge in Black female authors in recent years. Comparatively speaking, what has been your experience of this representation in the literary space compared to the TV and film space?
Representation in what way?
Like Black women and women in the literary space and in the TV and film space, say as your authorship, so to speak.
That's an interesting question. I suppose when I started writing, there were very few of us. I mean, there were, pitiably few of us. And then entering the film space, As an EP, I haven't seen a lot of. Well, I mean, I worked actually with a Black female producer on Critical but Stable, but I don't think that the representation is as one would expect of an industry that's been evolving and that's been there since the beginning of generations back in 1994. So yes, I would, and especially because MultiChoice, for instance, has had so many incubation programs for producers, filmmakers, and all of that. But I am a new entrant into this industry, so I can't really speak, with expertise and knowledge, lest I, say something, because I'm new to it. I don't think it's fair for me to comment on it. I'm also just making my inroads into it. And have I felt maybe disrespected or not taken as seriously, for instance, as male counterparts? Definitely not. From especially a MultiChoice, which was, I suppose, my first client, you could call it that. I have felt respected, I felt heard. Actually, remarkably so, as an author who is now putting on this this hat. I felt like an imposter throughout the time, but somehow made it. And I was also a scriptwriter on both shows, so I did feel incredibly accommodated, actually. And even in the room with actors, with directors, there was an incredible level of deference that was given to me, and it's something that I really appreciate. So I think that that particular industry is definitely one that is open to women who want to make their mark. But I think it's also an industry where you really need to be able to own up to not knowing what you don't know. I think the upsetting kind of posture that would close the door in your face is pretending that you've got all the answers just because you're the author of the work. So I think it's very important for any author who's wanting to then cross over into having that kind of high-level creative say in the production process, to know that you're walking into a room of people who've been doing this for years and years and years, and all you are essentially at that time is at that point is somebody who's brought the idea to the table. So I think it's very important to know to stick to stay in your lane when it's time to, but obviously to fight for the things that matter to you, which would be kind of creative control of certain aspects of the story that you feel sacrosanct, but also giving that leeway to let go when what you fought for is not working for what the paymaster, the people that are paying for the project, because it's expensive also to make films. So I think that's why I'm saying I think it's a very difficult space to walk into as a creator of a literary text, because literature spoils us because we have such great ownership and control. You're sitting in a coffee shop. I mean, I write in coffee shops, in my bedroom, everywhere. So you are the owner of the work. Yes, we have publishers that publish us, but an editor will not push, for instance, the way that a streamer or a broadcaster is going to push your buttons and insist on certain things. An editor is just there to guide, your writing and give, feedback and direction. And obviously, you can always say no. But it's a whole different game when it comes to television production, television and film. And I think it's quite instructive for an author who wants to cross over to always have that top of mind, because it's the only way to survive it. Yeah.
Okay, so look, I mean, I haven't quite transitioned into the producing side, so I can't really say much. I mean, I've been in writers' rooms, and I quite enjoy being in a writer's room and the whole energy that comes with, because when you write, most of the time you're on your own, but in a writer's room, there are lots of you throwing ideas. And I kind of enjoy that whole developing a story from scratch and the collaboration. So I think, yeah, and I think story is always king, because every film or series, whatever you're doing, starts with a story, and it will always be king. So I'm currently in a producer's lab for a whole year. So in terms of capacity building, so that I can graduate to producing. There are certain books of mine that I would like to keep to do, because I feel the story can only be told by me. So those, yeah. I mean, a story like The Polygamist, I mean, they didn't maintain the world. I mean, this is a Zimbabwean story, but it was adapted into a South African story. But I wasn't really precious about that, because I've always felt it could have been a Nigerian story. It works, it's got that universal appeal. Yeah, so, but there are stories like The Gold Diggers, which is essentially a Zimbabwean story, which I would like to maintain the integrity. And I can only do that if I'm also part of it. So they such stories that, I would like to, be involved in. So definitely I could see myself graduating to producing. And I think a lot of writers do. I mean, if you look at Chedza Pictures, Part 2, and Gwed started in the writer's room of Muvhango, and then they moved up. And I think it's just a natural progression where writers move up. And it's a very competitive space, I think. There's a lot of gatekeeping as well. From what I've noticed, having, just from the, and this is me looking at, just from being in the writer's room and just seeing it from where I stand. Yeah, there's a lot of gatekeeping. But I think, you just have to find your niche and, and stamp your foot and make your mark, like any other industry, I guess.
Thank you. Angela, you mentioned your editor perhaps guiding you, and they're not having the same kind of freedom in the TV and film industry, because you walk in as someone who basically just came with an idea but doesn't necessarily know how things work. Which brings me to my next question of the portrayal of women's experiences in your work. Now, in your stories, the central characters are women, right? I want to know what informs your portrayal of women's experiences in your stories, Cynthia?
It's a lot of things. I think at any given moment, we are all thinking different things. And it's almost like the way I can always explain it is like, just think you have this pot of ideas and experiences and observations. And each time something happens, you just pour it into this pot. At least the creative process for me is like that. So it's just a whole lot of things that I put into this pot. And then one day there will be just one idea, and then I will go back into the pot and I will find all the things that I can use to create a story or to back up that story. When I wrote Happiness, I was in my early 30s. So I was those girls, I was wanting this, wanting that, chasing this, chasing that, a townhouse in 4 ways, all of those things, just failing successfully in love, but, still just keeping on. And I was also seeing this with some of my friends. We were and I was reading about it, and I'd also just come from reading a lot of books at the time that are written by women. There was a whole movement around women's literature, chick lit it used to be called. So I was reading that a lot, and actually the idea for me to even write Happiness came from that, because all these books I was reading were based, were books that has like a Western context. And I was like, yeah, but here we are, Goli, just living this life actually. And so it came from that. So I was writing women that I was seeing, observing, just reading about, experiencing. So that's where the stories came from. But it also it occurred to me also at the time that the generation that I was writing about, we were just like sitting at a certain privilege. We're sitting at a privilege where we were able to make choices. Because Happiness, if you read Happiness, like at the end of the day, Happiness is about that whole book is about the choices that these women make, which I didn't always agree with them. But I just also, again, because it was not just my experience, I had to write what I felt people reacted to or related to. So we were just like this generation of women. We had everything. You know, the world was opening up to, especially if you're in South Africa and you're a Black woman. There's just like so much opportunity for us. So it was important for me to then capture that moment in my writing, because my novel that came after that, The Ones with Purpose, also centers women, two sisters in particular. But that was also the reason I wrote that. It was also just based on the experiences, also that women, girls find themselves in you know, the situation that sometimes they're not of your own doing, but sometimes you just, as a girl, there's certain expectation from your family, from your society, to be a certain thing. So women experiences are just, yeah, they make up a lot of how I write. Although right now I'm writing a novel about a 55-year-old male who is a meter taxi driver. So I'm just like trying to imagine what that life could look like, because these are my uncles, you know, when you come back to it. But yeah, it was a choice for me to write about happiness in a way that I wanted to capture us. I wanted to capture that moment. And I think if you read that novel, you will recognize, I mean, depending on how old you are, there was, you know, you will recognize yourself at that particular time, where, yeah, but essentially it was just like a snapshot. Just think of a snapshot of that particular time in our time as women of this particular generation in South Africa.
Sure. I mean, I also, through storytelling, I do advocate for women's rights. I mean, a lot of issues that affect women appear prominently in my novels. I mean, gender-based violence is a prominent theme, from The Polygamist all the way to An Angel's Demise. It's one of those prominent themes, and I like to use, you know, fiction to interrogate some of the challenges that women face, you know, at different ages, at different stages in their lives. I don't necessarily represent the characters in my books. I mean, when I wrote The Polygamist, I was also in my 30s, but trust me, I'm nothing like Essie or Joyce. No, I'm just saying. I mean, the only person
we
probably,
don't judge, we listen.
don't judge. I mean, the only woman probably that, you know, I could liken myself to was probably Matipa, because she was in corporate and I was in corporate. And when I
heard a few gasps, like, oh.
And I think, and it was a world of banking. So the stories, and that was my career. So I understood that world. And so it was easy to locate that story in that world. So we do draw from our experiences. I mean, I dated narcissists. And, you know, Jonasi's inspired by some of the characters I probably did encounter. So there's certain things that do make their way on their page from our own personal experiences. But look, when I wrote that book, I didn't have the language. We didn't know what a narcissist was then. Yeah. But I could describe it. You know, I didn't know what gaslighting was then, but I had experienced it. So we didn't have the language for it. But, you know, we had gone through some of those things. And so it's interesting. So it's also through your experiences that you also empower others, you know, by, you know, actually bleeding on the page, so to speak. Yeah, and I mean, it's quite interesting because also when I wrote The Polygamist, I was, you know, young 30. And when I was watching the series, I mean, Jonas is like 45 when he dies. I'm thinking, I thought he was old. I thought 45 was old then. But like now I'm 48. And I realized it's actually not old at all. So it's kind of like when you also look back, you think, no, but these are young. You know, I'm young. Because you don't think of yourself. But it felt old then. So yeah, so there's a lot of, we do borrow from our own lives as well.
Yeah, I think when I wrote Red Ink, well, I think a lot of my female characters are a breakaway from the archetype of the Black mama, the Black, you know, because I think there was an archetype that was associated with specifically Black females, and it was either you're a nurturer, you're a wife, you're a mother, you're waiting for him to come back from a goalie, patiently. Patiently, without looking anywhere. So from Lucy, who is kind of this bold, courageous journalist who decides to write a book about a serial killer and commits to going to see him in jail, to similar to Ututu with, no, she's got 3 names, don't get confused. She's Tutu, Nosy, and Cynthia, who wrote about happiness. So 30th Candle was about that big milestone. At the time, we all felt like 30 is a big old age. And I suppose it was seminal for all of us. And that's why we were writing about these experiences that we were having. But it's always fun to depict Black women as flawed, not owing the world an apology for just being, still silly, for being imperfect, for sometimes making the completely wrong choices like any other woman anywhere in the world. And I think, for instance, with Black Widow Society, Talula, who eats men for lunch, and yeah, your favorite. So Black Widow Society is about a secret society of married women, in upper middle class married women, who are in abusive relationships. And that's kind of, at the time, it's like it's an anomaly. Oh, if you've made it, if you've moved into the suburbs and all of that stuff, you are immune to GBV. So these women decide to form a secret society, and at the helm of the society is Talula, whom I've promised Sam, definitely she'll be in the auditions when it happens, because she's obsessed. There was a time when she was stalking me. There was a time when she was stalking me and saying, I want to be Talula. I've read this book, I'm Talula. So I will definitely be calling once that happens. So she decides to form the secret society that eliminates these men, and then the women then claim the insurance. But she sees this like as an altruistic thing. She wants to form a school for women, for young women, and empower them so that they don't have to rely on men they don't have to be financially dependent on men. To Bontle in The Blessed Girl, who is essentially a slave queen, but who's also very flawed, because also we look at women who are slave queens and we see them as just kind of these shallow, plastic beings, but digging into the soul of somebody like that and really finding out why they are like that and why they do what they do, because they're complex. And I feel like Black women deserve that lens that looks into their complexities and not just dismisses them as like just this one-dimensional thing, and then is labeled, mother, whore, lover, wife, and all of that kind of stuff. So I have been intentional about going against that mold, because I feel like I said, I feel like those tropes kind of trap us into seeming to be just one thing when we are so many different colorful versions of what woman looks like in the world. So yeah.
Thank you. And last year at the 16 Days of Activism, there was quite a distinct and resounding cry for a movement away from depicting women as victims and actively claiming women's power. So thank you for that. But now I have to throw this one at you. Have we not perhaps moved from the one extreme to the other, where now before we had domestication and objectification and the burden of resilience placed on women, and then now maybe that's replaced by social and economic freedom that comes at the cost of, say, your more traditional situations like marriage and children, or your objectification is now self-objectification. And then that resilience is now replaced by, at the first sign of hardship and inconvenience, there's the nearest exit, I'm out. I'm just going to throw this at you. What do you have to say to that? Any of you can take it.
Okay. Interesting question, because that's exactly what Critical But Stable, the book, actually probes. It's a social club of 4 married couples. And the one thing I was intentional about in the book, and one thing I insisted we kept in the television series, is that the book is about family. It's about men. Men started the society, the social club, but at the core of the Kula society is this need to preserve family. But most importantly for me, again, in honoring Black women, is that these men, the men that belong to the Kula Social Club, the 4 men, are obsessed with keeping their wives happy. That is kind of their whole reason for being. And again, it's the tropes that we see usually is that the woman has to work to keep the man. So in Critical But Stable, the men are working, they're even committing crimes, which is kind of sexy. But anyway, they to hold on to their women. So it's not, I don't think any of us would have set out to break the nuclear family by wanting to give women power. I wasn't kind of intentionally saying, it's fine, we're fine by ourselves, let's go eat cake, let's go blow the credit cards of old men like Buntle. But it is, again, about showing different types of agency of what the Black modern woman looks like, and being free and open in depicting that, and not judging, for instance, Ebontle for choosing that lifestyle, as much as giving space for Enoma, who is married to the Duke in Critical But Stable and loves him, and she knows that he loves her, and she knows that he'll do anything for her, and she's happy to be a mom, and she's happy to be a wife to this man who adores her. So there's space for all of those women. It's not about, you know, if you choose marriage, then you're less of a feminist, or you're less of an empowered Black female, or you're a pick-me. Do you know what I'm saying? All those labels. So I think that for me, with my work, that is essentially what it is. It's just the beauty and complexity and messiness of a Black woman, and just giving free rein for those characters to live and breathe and really have a heartbeat and feel like somebody that you know, or even feel like you know, giving room and for that character to breathe, so that when you read it, you see something magical in a Black woman that sometimes we miss because we're so associated with struggle and.
Yeah. So.
I really don't have much to say, in the sense that, I mean, I think my characters are layered. There's domesticity, there's singlehood. I mean, I think it's a cross section. It's not either or, you know, be married, you know, I look at marriage, I look at non-married women in all my books. So it's a divergence of women. I mean, if you look at Family Affair, they're families, solid families. Then there's Xoliswa, who's single and trying to be a femme. She's trying to be married, but it's more the motivations of why does she want to be married? And it's mostly societal pressure more than anything. So it's not really saying like, it's just looking at the different structures that women find themselves in society, as opposed to saying this is the right way or this is not the right way. Yes.
I don't know, like I'm not saying what you are saying, like in the bigger scheme of things, right? Yes, in our books, we position women who they make their own decisions, they make their own choices, but in life, like in reality, we're still far away from tipping the scale in that direction. So there's still a lot of work to be done, right? And I think also it's also different if you look at different classes. We sit here, we're middle class. It could look like that. It gives that impression that women are advancing, but you start to go like into the working class, and it's totally different. Women are still held in those positions. Women are still held back by a lot of things. So we still need to do this. We still need to continue to put women in in this roles that show them, that give them that empowerment. But I don't think we are disturbing any order, any patriarchal order that has been placed. Even if we are, we're really just scratching the surface. I still want to see a lot of books. I still want to see a lot of film that are putting women at the front of everything. So yeah, we and that's the thing about media. It could give a certain illusion, but in reality, we know where we're supposed to be or where we should be as women.
So the impact of your work, given how you've portrayed women in your books, would you not say that this pushes society in a sense to just be slightly more open-minded than we may have been?
Sure, yeah. But what I'm saying is it does, but remember the numbers also and who it reaches. It's usually you preaching to the converted, right? So it doesn't, the message doesn't, it moves, yes, it moves, but I'm just saying like there's still a lot of work to be done before we can get to the point like, oh, now women abasafuna ukusebenza, women don't want to do this. And in fact, I find that the more empowered women are, the more they want to keep the nuclear families. They work so hard to maintaining this order that has been there, that they find themselves in. So yeah, I don't know. For me, it just feels like, yes, we are doing the work and we should continue the work. But yeah, there's just still a lot of work to be done.
I agree. I mean, I think that's why people resonated with The Polygamist. A lot of Joyces out there. Even Matipas of this world want to be Joyces. So it shows you that we still really haven't evolved as much as we'd like to think we have. Yeah.
I love it. Now, given the success of the screen adaptations of these particular books, has that success had a corresponding impact on the books themselves, maybe with sales and republishing and so on?
I think with Red Ink, it's always reprinted. I think it's got a life of its own. It's got kind of, it's always had a little following of its own. And I think with the book, it's just made, what I am getting from my readers is just more love for the story, for the character. And a lot of people saying, after watching the show, now I'm rereading the book. I don't know if film audiences necessarily are people that naturally, their natural instincts would be, okay, now that I've watched the film, let me go read the book. It's usually the other way around, to be honest. And I think the hope from both, I think the one good thing that these adaptations have done, obviously, is make us more household names, more recognized. So if Sue were to publish a book tomorrow, I'm sure it'll fly off the shelves, you know? So I think that's the recognition that we've managed to gain with these adaptations. But I think it's unrealistic to think that, you know, you're gonna have like massive book sales. At least that's from my point of view, just based off of that, because unfortunately, readers are readers and film buffs are film buffs. And it's easier to translate in that direction of book to film than to convert a film buff to a reader. That's just my opinion.
I think my experience has been different in the sense that I think people watched the series and then said, oh, there's a book. Because we've actually seen the sales of the book, you know, have tripled, you know, since the series came out. I mean, so much so that even the writers of the show were complaining, like, I mean, why are they looking for the author? We wrote the screenplay. But people are buying the book. And even with the ebook, I mean, we are seeing a resurgence, like, especially the American market. I mean, before the series, it was mostly our sales, overseas sales were British sales. But now we've seen a distinct change where it's Americans who are leading in purchases. So for me, I think it really has had a big impact on the book. And it's almost like we're relaunching. Because in a lot of places, it was unknown. I mean, the book was really available in Southern Africa. So for me, we're seeing that it's almost like we're relaunching, giving the book a new lease on life in terms of in the rest of Africa and over in America and the UK. And, you know, people are looking for it in Australia and Canada. So those were not markets that I was known in. So for me, it's given me the kind of visibility that I would not have otherwise enjoyed. So for me, it's really done a lot for my career as a writer. Yeah.
Yeah, I think because the streamer is international, and you tend to have more readers outside, just like world over. So yeah, I can see how that is working, and it's beautiful because her success is actually kind of trickling to all of us in a way, because now everybody kind of want to know, who else are writing in this country, and people are now interested in, So that has been wonderful, because also you're starting to see readers asking, when are we seeing this one being adapted? When are they seeing this one being adapted? Which means they are like putting the spotlight on certain books that they love, and hopefully the filmmakers can then see those books. So it's just been wonderful to observe, just like, let me just say this while I have the mic, just to observe how the polygamist, the success of the polygamist, has really just rubbed off on a whole lot of us, especially in the writing fraternity. So just kudos to that, Sue. Thank you.
Thanks for that. I mean, I think for writers, I call it the Deep South. So if you really published in Southern Africa, you don't get the kind of visibility that African writers who are published overseas do. It's easy to sell, their books sell down. But for us to sell our books up there, it's hard. I mean, a few. I mean, Angela, you've had your books, sold in the UK, which is rare. I mean, I can count the number of authors who've actually had success in that regard. It's very difficult for us in the Deep South. So we kind of write in obscurity. It's West Africa that gets the limelight. West African writers. So, like, Cynthia saying, it has really put the spotlight on Southern Africa, and people are saying, who else is there? And a door has been opened. I mean, it's not to say that people weren't writing brilliant stories. They always have been. It's just that no one really cared to look, and I think this is what the series has actually done, to say, who else is there? And it's giving people a lot. It'll give more writers visibility. And I think a door has been opened for many writers to go through.
Wow. A door certainly has been opened, even for actors. The cross-collaboration has done a world of good for the performing arts, for acting and film practitioners as well. So thank you again from my industry. And myself, even though. It's fine. I think maybe we can have a Q&A session before we close. Already there's a hand shooting up. Whoa, and 2 hands, 3 hands. Okay, we're gonna need help. Can you? Thank you, Sanbanan. Beautiful authors and the audience. Okay, so I have 3 questions. My name is Mbali. I am a cultural reporter. I have 3 questions. First, the first question is for all of you. Only one is specific to Sue. You touch lightly on Children of Blood and Bone and the controversy around it. So my question is, in a South African context, where the industry, the performing arts industry,
is already unregulated before the authors even come into that space. What are the rights of an author in an adaptation? How can they reasonably protect themselves? And then for Sue, you were rejected by quite a few publishers, which then led to the process of you then deciding to self-publish. And you've also just revealed now that the series happened on the third attempt. So then my question to you is, how taxing from an emotional perspective and also from a human perspective were those experiences? And then also this question, Angela cannot answer because I asked her last week. When it comes to from script to screen adaptations, just everything that's been discussed about being precious about your work and the writing room sometimes being gate-kept and authors not being allowed inside that space. For you guys, does it become important then for authors to educate themselves and enter this space? Is it better for authors to accept the status quo and remain outside of the door? And why is that the perspective, whatever your perspective is? Thank you.
Thanks, Mbali. Protection of authors' rights. Phew, that's so important. That's so important. If there's any authors in the audience, please check your contracts. If you're going to be published by a commercial publisher, protect your rights, because there's different kind of rights in every literary contract. And obviously publishers also protect themselves. For instance, your books can be translated into other languages. That's more sales. It does, but look at the percentage split. And also consider whether, for instance, if Sue has sway in the Zimbabwean market and has ways of translating her book into Shona or whatever, I wouldn't, for instance, personally, I wouldn't advise her to do translation with her South African publisher, whereas maybe in another market she could have more room and so those little things, that kind of fine print, and again, adaptation rights, you want to look at that. I'm not obviously going to talk to get into what my contract with my publisher looks like, but it's been fair, because also if you're a newly published author, there's certain there's kind of standard commercial contracts that you sign with a commercial publisher, and obviously because they're taking a risk on you, there's certain rights that they may be able to hold on to, but look at the percentage split, because for anything else that's not the literature, you should have like a sizable chunk, like a proper sizable chunk of whatever derivative rights come after the literary work is printed. So I think it's a very exciting time to be a newly published author right now, because there's so many opportunities. So you want to keep a handle on ensuring that the other opportunities that come out of that your work benefits you, because of course literature doesn't pay that much. Not a lot of people read books. In South Africa, we know a bestseller is what, 3,000 copies. So that's not gonna, buy you that new penthouse suite you've been eyeing in the Western Cape. Or even that little skodonk of a car that you've been eyeing. So you want to ensure that you will be able to benefit from whatever else comes out of the work.
So the other question about me being the journey, I think it's also important to point out that I wasn't actively canvassing for people to adapt my work. People always approached me, right? And I think I learned earlier on that lots of books are optioned to film, but some of them never go into development. So I was very clear in my head that it might work, it might not work. I learned that very early. And because those things happened early in my after the books were published, I then also understood the different value the rights. I didn't know as well, but when I was first approached, I then realized because when you go into an option agreement, then you understand that okay, the film rights have value. So even when I was later published by a traditional publisher, I then pulled those rights out because I knew that they had value. So I reserved them. So it's also understanding. So I think for me, it was everything up until this point was a learning curve. It was teaching me. It was like preparing me for such a time as this. And it's also to understand that book sales alone, as Angela pointed out, the royalties are not enough. Think of a book as a door. It's a doorway to other income streams. And if you start to think of it that way, I mean, some people publish books and they use the books for speaking engagements. I mean, there's this Uxoli, she has this book on menopause, and she has just the one book, and she's doing corporate engagements, just speaking on menopause, and it's opened up a door for her in the wellness space, and she's the go-to person. So I also think of a book as a door. It opens doors to other things in the same way that your book can also be adapted. That will open doors to other opportunities. So and I think it's also to understand as a writer that creativity is a business, and think of it that way as well. As much as you want to have your work out there, think of it as a business, and it's something of value. I don't know what the third question was.
The third question was about whether or not you guys think it's a good idea or not for authors to enter the right part of the adaptation process. Okay.
So it depends, right? You must decide, and Angela spoke about this quite a bit. You must decide so nobody says authors must not enter the room. It just depends when you're doing that contract, whether it's when you're doing the film agreement, whether you are then able to negotiate with the producer, you wanting to be involved in that work. Most authors actually don't want to be, because they don't want to be part of that world. So they get their film rights, they take their money, they go and they write novels or books or whatever. So for some, and it's a good peace of mind, because then you find, and the thing is about adaptation, or any kind of adaptation, not just film and TV, but as soon as you give rights to somebody else to do something with your work, you have literally just given them creative license to turn it into whatever product that they can interpret it. So a lot of authors stay away from being involved in the adaptations because it can come with heartaches, and we are witnessing it with the with the author that we all know. So you have to decide, you have to be clear. If your path is to be involved in the film and screenwriting in the film industry, then by all means do try to get yourself involved in that industry. But if not, just again, take your money and go.
Question on this side. Is it okay? Thank you. Good evening, everyone. My question goes to Sunyati. Firstly, I want to say congratulations for your book. I want to just give you your flowers. But my question is basically based on it's based on the challenges that you have faced as an author. And what I want to ask is, how does the future, looking at what you've been sharing about the challenges and what so forth, how does the future of a young female author looks like in South Africa or Africa as a whole, and what are the key takes that they should learn from your experience? Thank you.
I would say writing it's tough, I think you all echo my sentiments. It's tough, and I think if you want to make it, you have to be willing. I always talk about the 4 Ps, perseverance, persistence. I think you should have a love for it, passion. And if you're going to do it, don't do it with the money in mind. Sometimes the money doesn't come immediately. And it's the love that's going to make you finish a book. Yeah, and it's a love that's going to carry you when it gets tough. Writing is tough. It's also you do it on your own, and you by yourself. You isolated for a lot of the times. I mean, you live in your head with characters. So outside of the glam of you seeing, author signing books, it's tough behind the scenes. So, and providence, I think also that plays the hand of God, I think. I mean, when I think of my own writing career, there has been a lot of that as well. But yeah, you have to have grit if you want to stay in this industry. It's not for the faint-hearted. It just depends how much you want it. That's all I can say as a writer.
Evening, everybody. My name is Gwame. Hi, guys. I think I will start maybe with a comment towards Angela. I know that you said that at some point, being within the film space and whatnot, it brought you to tears. But I think it was for me, when I was watching Red Ink, it came full circle when I saw you in the last episode, which was kind of nice. So I have a question here, right? Going back to the previous question, which was, what do you think the future of writing looks like for young female writers? So because now you're more involved in like the production side of the, like bringing artwork into like life, right? So what makes a South African story attractive to producers and broadcasters right now? And if, for example, you being an executive producer, if maybe someone were to say, hey, I'm writing a book, right? And this book is about Tisetso, and Tisetso is a homeless guy. He falls in love with this gallery receptionist. What about them just mentioning it? What type of questions would you ask that person? Like, so that maybe if anyone here in the audience maybe has that idea, maybe what kind of questions they can prepare themselves for if they are to maybe take their work to like screen. I'm not sure if maybe my question translates. Thank you.
Thank you for the question. Remember, I'm a new producer, guys. But I think the question that I get asked when I was pitching, for instance, for Red Ink and for Critical but Stable, the kind of questions I was asked were about the character. And I think that's the one thing that streamers and producers are looking for. They're looking for a protagonist. They don't have to be perfect. They don't have to be heavily flawed. They don't have to be anything, but they must have a very interesting character journey. So we should be able to see this person progress from wherever they start, whatever inciting incident starts off their journey, to them going through the ebbs and flows of life and then getting to a climatic place where we're thinking, oh my gosh, they finally reached the goal that we've signed up to watch them reach, and then there's a mishap and then they make their way back. So you're a film student, you know the character journey. So I think that is the one thing, and it was interesting to actually have that battle of trying to find a character journey with Critical but Stable. It's an interesting case study in that the book was like all my books, was female focused and female centered. And one of the points of departure with the show that already looked like my book, in the room, I was challenged to turn a female-centric storyline into a male-centric storyline. And so when I was pitching, they bought into that character journey of those women in their marriages, finding themselves and finding their identities, and being in long-term marriages, and some of them transitioning to a different kind of woman. And now you've got to take that and turn it into a male-centered storyline. But then your male characters have to, because what attracted them is, to the story is that it's about couples who've been in the long haul of this crazy thing called marriage. And so you have to have just as compelling a transition of these men starting off as a certain kind of man, a certain kind of provider or husband, or they're going through whatever the struggles they're going through, and take them through a hero's journey that audiences can relate to and believe in and buy into. So I think the biggest thing, more than anything, they don't even ask you that much about the storyline, because of course they've read the story. There's something about the story that they liked anyway. It's the characters. It's always the characters. With Red Ink, it was about the characters. It was about who is Lucy, who is this woman that you're expecting to carry an 8-part series. So I think really spend a lot of time in developing your characters, because if you've got compelling characters, you know, your storyline can even be a bit shaking, and flimsy, but if you've got that incredible, amazing a hero, protagonist, or villain, even if your main character is actually a villain, like in Breaking Bad, if it's a story that we can relate to and we can ride with this person, and you've written this person in a way that he or she is worthy of us keeping on flipping on the pages, then it will be worthy for us to sit through 8 episodes or 10 episodes or a 90-minute film. So I think that is the thing that film in the room with television and film, that's the big question that kept on coming back.
Can we have one more question?
Yeah, please. I raised my hand before.
All right, two more questions.
Hi, I'm Ofente Alice Muliki. I am a literature scholar here at the University of Johannesburg under the English department. I am about to start with my PhD thesis soon, and I would love to use your work in my thesis. So I will basically be looking at how sex can go beyond pleasure. And the reason why I'm doing that is because when I was watching The Polygamist, Fatal Seduction, and some of your work as well, I see that sex has been central to some of the lifestyle choices, to an extent where people would like to ask, is this even about pleasure, or it goes beyond pleasure? For example, we see that people use sex to boost their egos, their pride, to get away with murder, to deceive, to cause basically harm, to become predators. So sex has been very central to some of these adaptations. And I want to bring a history of how South African authors have represented sex in their work, how it has changed and why it has changed. So I believe that if I can ask you these questions as authors, I can be able to match my ideas with yours, because as you have mentioned, you get annoyed and irritated and feel robbed when people do not use your work from the perspective of what you initially wanted to do. So I don't want to have a whole PhD thesis where I now rely on my own understanding and not accommodate what you guys thought about the sex representation in your work. Thank you.
That's amazing. One more.
Hello.
Sorry.
Hi.
Did you want a response from one?
Oh.
Okay.
Oh no, I'm always working with PhD students, so you can call me, email me, whatever.
Thank you.
Okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Tengetile. I've got 2 questions for all of you. The first one being, I just wanted to know, did any of you, I'm in the health sector, did any of you do any therapy before your books? Before the adaptation of your books, because I mean your books went from being read by people in their private spaces to being now discussed by everyone on Twitter, for example. And if you didn't do therapy before, is it something that you are doing now? And the second question is, what is your take on the extremes that we have gone in terms of, descriptions? Sometimes when I hear words like narcissist and depression, I cringe, because those are heavy words that have to be used by people in the clinical sector. Narcissism is a clinical disorder, and people don't like being called narcissist. That's why it's rejected most of the time. But I find that because we just use it loosely now, people are no longer angry, people are no longer sad, they're depressed, they're narcissists, So I just want to know what your take is on that.
So, no, for the first therapy before and after, no, there was no need. And what was the second question? In you, I mean, I think that's, what do they call it? Culture integrates a lot of these terms. I mean, because you see it on Instagram, right? So, I mean, like you say, yes, narcissism is deeper than that. I mean, it's even spiritual. If you can explore some of its origins, and some say there's actually no cure for it. That's why I guess a lot of people do reject it, because it's not something you can. It's believed you can't be treated from it. But I think, look, for me, it's the relatability, not so much that we are trying to be clinically correct in that diagnosis. I think people sort of understand when you call someone a narc, that they understand the characteristics, not so much that, it's more diagnosis of it. Yeah. If you want to
All right. Well, guys, time is an enemy. So we've come to the end of our discussion. Now, before I hand over to our chairman for closing remarks, I'd like to open the floor one more time for closing remarks from our esteemed authors. Please, Cynthia.
Yeah, I think it's an exciting space to be an author, to be a screenwriter, to be a filmmaker in South Africa. So yeah, just go for it. The opportunities are there. There's, I mean, obviously there are changes in the industry, both in the book industry. Publishers are consolidating, but I mean, I think that happens in a whole lot of industries. But yeah, we've laid the foundation for you guys to build onto it. It's really been wonderful as an author to see the number of books that come out of South Africa, like in the past 10, 15 years, because when we started, there were like 5 of us, and we used to meet all the time. Sipiwe is also here. We used to meet all the time, and there would just be us. In book festivals, it would just be us. But now you go to a book festival, and there's just like, the program is huge, and there's just like all these authors. Attend events, book festivals, film festivals, become part of writing communities, because some of the questions that you have get answered there. I've just recently joined Writers Guild of South Africa because I'm also interested in screenplays. And there's just like a lot of information that you get in those communities. So yeah, attend book launches, know your booksellers at bookstores, know who your booksellers are, because those are the people who can tell you which books are coming out, which books are hot, or which books you need to read. So don't be an outsider, and then, don't be an outsider and then say, oh, I don't know anything. I think every writer that I know is like so open to sharing information, to sharing how we do things, and we use these spaces like this to do exactly that. So be part of the community, but please keep on bringing the work. There's just so much potential. There's just so many opportunities for all of you in this room. To get your work out there, be it books or be it screens. And please cast Samela, please. Somebody.
Closing remarks, please.
No, I just want to thank everyone for your support. I always say, as a writer, I wouldn't be there without readers. And yeah, thank you for everyone who's read me, and those who are discovering me for the first time. Thank you too. And I just say, if you're a creative out there, know your story. It's important to know your story, know your voice, trust your voice, and know the industry that you're in as well. There's no excuse. I think it's changed. There's more information available now than there was, 10, 15 years ago when some of us started. So take the effort to actually learn the industry, and Knowledge is power. Yeah.
Thank you. Storytelling is so important because it humanizes us, it comforts us. What is it? It's art disturbs the comfortable. Huh? It comforts the disturbed and disturbs the comfortable. Yes, art is supposed to comfort the disturbed and disturb the comfortable. So in this room, there are just so many stories. Not all of us obviously are storytellers. I'm not gonna tell the lie that we all have a book in us, because some of us don't have a book in us, and it's okay. But stories are important. And I think the other thing is, don't overly rely on AI, because you've gone through your human experiences for a reason. For a reason. Your story is unique for a reason. Your perspective is unique for a reason. So please, let's not lean in too much into AI too much, because at all. Research, do. But write in your own voice. Trust your voice, as flawed as it is. Go back, rewrite. You'll get it right in the end. But do not overly rely on AI, guys. You're a human being for a reason, and we need your stories for that reason.
Ladies and gentlemen, Cynthia Nozizwe, Kukututu, Jele, Sunyati, and Angela Makolo. What a privilege, what an honor. Thank you so much. Before we go, I'd like to hand over to our chairman for closing remarks. Oh, you get the fancy mic. Oh, wow, okay.
Thanks, Samela. You give me another title. I'm standing here as the acting director of the Johannesburg Institute for Advanced Study. I'm a chairman elsewhere. I'm also the chairperson of the National Arts Festival Board, so that's what she's referring to as a chairman.
Also professor, also doctor, also.
Well, I'm also in the English department, but I'm not offences supervisor. The one who's doing that study that she mentioned earlier. Okay, well, can we give them another round of applause? So thank you all for telling authentic African stories. Thank you for opening doors for many of us. In the interest of transparency, I must declare that I have a relationship with each of our esteemed panelists, but not in the Jonas kind of way. I've known Samela through the TV screen, and she's been part of our families for several nights. And I learned much later that she's actually my home girl from Makanda. So we do have talent. We don't just host. So on behalf of the Johannesburg Institute for Advanced Study, I would like to thank you for anchoring this program and make it so exciting. And I think you're a perfect choice to moderate this session. You've read the books, you've seen the films. So thank you very much for doing justice to this evening. It's not a bribe for me, it's a gift from JIAS. Similarly, Nozizwe, we've been traveling this road together for a very long time. I was first exposed to her work in 2008 when I was a judge for BTA Anglo Platinum Short Story Award, where we had a top 3. And strangely, number 1 and number 3 was the same person. So we had one winner for 2 of the awards. And yeah, that's when I got to know your work as a short story writer. And of course, later on, in 2010, she published Happiness is a 4-letter word. So it's been a long road, and you give hope to some of us who are still struggling, hoping to make it someday. So And I was even there when you won the Mnet Award, by the way. Angela Makolwa. Well, Angela, we sort of emerged at the same time in 2007 when she published her debut novel, Red Ink. I also published my own, When a Man Cries. But clearly, there are certain levels of development. It remains my only novel. And how many have you published so far? I've lost count. But also, we sort of separated. After she wrote Black Widow Society, I didn't trust her much. So we revived our friendship when she became famous and Red Ink was adapted. So thank you for being a friend of JIAS. She's I didn't promise you anything. Okay. Yeah, she wrote Black Widow Society, so we better be careful around her. And lastly, Sue, by the way, Ange, I'm supervising a master's student who's doing The Blessed Girl is one of the texts. So yeah, you've almost every year, actually, I get to supervise students who are doing your work. Similarly, Sue Nyati has been a fellow, a writing fellow at JIAS. If you don't know JIAS, it's a multidisciplinary institute of the University of Johannesburg. We are located, we have a micro campus in West Dean, where we invite fellows to sit and write for several months. And we've had the privilege of hosting Sue Nyati over the years. And after that, she's been doing creative writing workshops for us. So, and also Sue, I have a PhD student who's doing the Gold Diggers. So it's a real privilege to be in this space and not only to appreciate your work, but to actually be part of, developing scholarship around it. So yeah, I'm pretty sure that other than Offense, there'll be more students who'll be doing The Polygamist and more of your work in the future. So, congratulations. Okay, thank you. And now, let me come to you, all of you, for making the time on a Tuesday evening, as Sam called it, a school day, to be with us this evening, and all those who joined us online. You've been a wonderful audience, so please give yourselves a round of applause. And I must thank, to be sure that I'll get paid at the end of the month, I must thank Senior Director, Professor Victoria Graham, in absentia. She's the Senior Director for Strategic Initiatives and Admin. In other words, the Director of JIAS reports to her. So please, my colleagues, I hope you'll tell Prof that I did thank her. Otherwise, we might not be allowed to organize another event. And I must thank our technical team for covering the event. You will be able to view this event online. It will be available on YouTube. And also for those who joined us online today, they are able to do so because of their technical team. So well done. But most importantly, I hope you'll have a good picture of me. Thank you. Okay, may I propose that we try another one, a group picture here before anybody else? Thank you. And lastly, I would like to thank the staff of JIAS. We are a very small team, but we make these events happen almost every week. If you've noticed, if you are on our mailing list, we've been doing events. Last week we had 2 events. We had more the week before. And you are quite a very small team. I would like to request them to stand and wave so that you can see who they are. JIAS colleagues. These are the people who make us look good. Lastly, on a commercial note, we do have books by these authors. You can buy them outside. Book Sale Capital was very kind to have a stall here. So you may buy the books. The autographs are free for today. And you might get a selfie in the process. And to those who unfortunately were unable to ask questions during the session, feel free. We're going to mingle. There will be some neighbors outside. So feel free to interact with some of the authors and our moderator during the rest of the evening. So thank you once again for honoring us. Everyone, the panelists, the moderator, and the audience, including the online audience. Thanks a lot.